Hi everyone, it's Nora again. Welcome back to the Hollywood Untold, where we dig into the real stories behind the stars. Today, we're diving into the life of Leonardo DiCaprio, how he went from child actor to global icon, and why he's way more than just the guy from Titanic. This one's packed with unforgettable roles, wild behind-the-scenes moments, and a serious commitment to saving the planet. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of our deep dives into Hollywood's biggest legends. Now let's get into the story of Leo's incredible rise. Leonardo DiCaprio was born in Los Angeles in 1974 and grew up surrounded by the buzz of Hollywood, but his early years weren't glamorous. He was raised in a modest neighborhood, and from a young age, he was full of energy and imagination. That spark caught the attention of his parents, who encouraged him to try acting. By the time he was a teenager, Leo had already appeared in a few commercials and small TV roles. His first major break came when he joined the cast of the TV series Growing Pains, where his charm and natural charisma started turning heads. But it wasn't until he transitioned to the big screen that people really began to notice the kind of actor he could become. In 1993, he starred opposite Robert De Niro in This Boy's Life. Leo was just 19, but his performance was intense and fearless. Playing a troubled teen opposite one of Hollywood's biggest stars wasn't easy, but he held his own. That same year, he took on an even more challenging role in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. He played a boy with a developmental disorder, and he played it with such depth and sensitivity that audiences were stunned. Many people thought the film had cast a real disabled actor, not realizing they were watching a teenager with almost no formal training. His performance earned him his first Academy Award nomination, and suddenly, everyone in Hollywood knew his name. After that, Leonardo had a choice. He could have easily followed the typical young heartthrob path and stuck with safe, romantic roles. But he was drawn to more complex characters and unusual stories. He worked on films like The Basketball Diaries and Romeo plus Juliet, where he showed a willingness to take risks and challenge himself. His acting wasn't just about looking good on screen. It was about diving into a role and bringing something real to it. Everything changed in 1997 when he took the lead in Titanic, James Cameron's massive historical romance. Playing Jack Dawson, a poor artist who falls in love on the doomed ship, DiCaprio became an overnight global superstar. Teenagers plastered his face on their walls, and fans lined up around the block to see the movie multiple times. The film became a cultural phenomenon and one of the highest-grossing movies of all time. But with all the fame came pressure and scrutiny. Some critics questioned whether he was more of a pretty face than a serious actor. Still, even at the height of his teen idol status, Leonardo wasn't satisfied with surface-level fame. He avoided flashy interviews and rarely talked about his personal life. Instead, he kept his focus on the work. By the time Titanic had made him one of the most recognizable people in the world, he had already made up his mind that he wouldn't let the spotlight define him. He was in it for the long haul, and he was just getting started. After the madness of Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio could have coasted on fame for the rest of his life, taking easy roles and enjoying the perks of being a global heartthrob. But that wasn't what he wanted. He took a short break from acting, then came back with a clear mission: to prove he was more than just the guy from the biggest love story of the 90s. Over the next decade, he started picking roles that were darker, deeper, and more demanding. He didn't just want to act, he wanted to transform. One of the biggest turning points in his career came when he teamed up with director Martin Scorsese. Their first film together, Gangs of New York, came out in 2002. It was gritty, violent, and raw, and it marked the beginning of a creative partnership that would shape Leonardo's career. The two had a kind of chemistry, not on screen, but behind it, that brought out the best in both of them. Leo was no longer playing innocent or idealistic characters. He was diving into broken men, flawed heroes, and people with something to prove. In The Aviator, he played Howard Hughes, the eccentric billionaire whose brilliance was matched by his obsession and mental struggles. It was a tough role. Hughes aged, fell apart, and isolated himself, and Leo pulled it off with impressive detail and intensity. He earned another Oscar nomination and left no doubt that he had grown into a serious actor. Around this time, he also starred in Catch Me If You Can, where he played a charming con artist opposite Tom Hanks. Even in that more playful role, there was a hint of sadness behind the smile, and that became a theme in many of his performances. Over the years, Leo kept working with Scorsese in films like The Departed, Shutter Island, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Each one gave him a chance to stretch, to dive into characters who were smart, dangerous, or spiraling out of control. He didn't shy away from the rough edges. In fact, he seemed to gravitate toward them. He wanted his characters to feel real, even if that meant they were ugly or hard to like. At the same time, he took on other big projects like Blood Diamond, where he played a mercenary caught up in the chaos of war-torn Africa. For that role, he not only nailed a South African accent, but also showed a more human, emotional side of himself. People began to notice that Leo didn't just take roles, he disappeared into them. Still, despite all the praise and nominations, the Oscar kept slipping through his fingers. That changed with The Revenant. Filming in brutal conditions, eating raw bison liver, and barely speaking throughout the film, Leo pushed himself further than ever before. When he finally won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 2016, it felt like the world let out a collective cheer. He had spent years proving himself, and now he had the trophy to match the talent. After winning the Oscar for The Revenant, Leonardo DiCaprio could have taken it easy, but he kept moving forward with the same intensity. He wasn't just an actor anymore. He had become one of the most respected names in Hollywood, known for both his performances and his passion for protecting the planet. His environmental work became more visible, and he used his fame to bring attention to global issues like climate change, deforestation, and ocean pollution. Through his foundation, he helped fund countless conservation projects, and he even spoke at the United Nations, urging world leaders to act before it was too late. Even with his activism in full swing, he never lost his love for acting. He continued choosing projects that challenged him and pushed boundaries. In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he played a fading TV actor struggling with his place in a changing industry. The performance was full of humor, sadness, and honesty, reminding audiences just how versatile he really was. The film was a hit, and he earned yet another Oscar nomination. A few years later, he teamed up with Martin Scorsese again for Killers of the Flower Moon, a dark story based on true events that showed his willingness to dive into painful, complicated history. Now in his late 40s, DiCaprio has reached a rare place in show business. He's no longer chasing awards or headlines. He's working because he cares about the stories, the causes, and the craft. He stays mostly out of the spotlight when he's not on set, but his name alone still draws crowds to theaters. Whether he's acting, producing, or fighting for the environment, Leonardo DiCaprio has built a career that's not just about fame, it's about legacy. From his early days on TV to Oscar-winning performances and climate activism, Leonardo DiCaprio has carved out a career like no one else in Hollywood. He's managed to stay relevant, respected, and real through decades of fame, and he's not slowing down. Whether he's working with Scorsese or speaking at the UN, Leo's impact goes far beyond the screen. If you loved this journey through his life, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment with your favorite Leo role, and subscribe to The Hollywood Untold for more stories just like this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.